So Victor, what's up, bro?
How's it going, Danny?
I'm very well, how are you?
I'm good.
Right, so first of all, where are we?
We are in France, Font-Romeu, on the top of a mountain, as you can see. And the reason we're here is because it's where I've been training for the last 3 weeks. I'm doing an altitude training camp in my preparation for the Olympic Games.
Very interesting. Well, thank you for getting me out of Barcelona. It's been a while since we got out of the city, so it's been very nice. And the topic of today's podcast is molded skates and soft skates.
Exactly. We are going to talk about what it actually is and which one you should choose.
Okay, so without any further ado, we should maybe get some examples of a soft and a hard.
Let's bring him out.
Well, sorry, I should say a molded skate and a soft skate. So you can start then with what is this?
Well, like you just said, it is I wouldn't say soft, I would say a softer skate. And as you can see here, it is partly soft, but it's also it still has this firm shell. And the reason they made it like this is to allow you to be comfortable, but to still give you this sensation of, to some extent at least, like having more control and more support around the ankles, which for a lot of skaters, even experienced skaters, can be the weak link when skating.
Right.
So basically they're soft where you would like them to be soft, but still stiff where you would benefit from it.
No, it's sort of like where you need them to be. Okay.
Exactly.
So
what's that?
So this is your typical molded skate. It looks like this. It's super solid, right? So it's plastic here.
All the way around.
Here, yeah. It's got obviously a metal frame, but it's all plastic boot, 100% molded. The only bits that are made out of cotton on this skate is my liner. And essentially what these skates are predominantly used for are, for me, urban skating. So a little bit more abuse on your skates, like jumping hard, going downstairs, maybe hitting some walls and stuff. So you can imagine you're going to want something that's quite rigid when you hit a wall.
Yeah, almost protective.
Precisely.
Like.
So yeah, the molded shell is almost like a protection for us in urban skating. So basically, a molded skate is something that has more of a solid molded boot the whole way around.
Like a shield.
Yeah, same as the cuff, the boot, all the same thing. Like you say, like a shield. You know what I mean? And for me, it's exactly what they're shields to my feet when I'm out there being a warrior at war with the streets.
All right. Well, the reason I use these is because I see why you would want that to be a shield, but I also see how this would limit your feet and limit your capacity to move freely around your skates. And even though I'm a speed skater, so I'm still using these soft boots. However, I'm using low-cut boots. But I started out with skates like these, and it's to some extent kind of the same idea.
Right.
And like I said, I'm pretty certain this would limit you in a lot of ways, where here you have more mobility and you can steer more around. Like you're in charge of where it's going, where I would feel that a skate like that with almost a 360-degree shell all over would be like limiting your mobility. You wouldn't be able to really extend your strokes. You wouldn't be able to have like enough dorsiflexion. As you can see here, this is incredibly
I can see
soft.
that. Yeah.
Because when you're out for long skates, it's just going to be more comfortable if it like follows your feet in a way.
It's interesting because it's like, for you, that's almost like something that works really well. Like you want a skate so it can go side to side laterally, you have a bit more movement in. Like for me, I don't want my urban skates to have too much movement. So my foot almost feels like it's connected to my knee.
Yeah,
I don't get much movement from the knee to the ankle too much. And for me, that's perfect. But like you say, like for actually pushing and things like that, they're probably not the easiest or the most efficient, I'd say. And probably not the most comfortable if we were to compare them with the softer skate. So for me, like for urban skating, I need this rigidity. But from what you say, with the soft skate about using it for fitness and moving, it makes a lot of sense actually why you would use a soft boot more for sort of fitness skating and things like this, and why essentially you use an urban skate.
Yeah, because we have the same idea, but in your opinion, it's a positive thing. In my opinion, it's a negative thing.
Yeah,
but I see why you would want, like, of course, if you're flying down from somewhere high or whatever, you would want nothing to move around. You don't want it to be wobbly.
Completely.
I imagine. Whereas if you're skating a marathon, and nothing moves around for 42 kilometers, it's going to be a tough one, where you would want them to be a little more forgiving and you manage to relax more. But of course, if you're jumping around on rails, you don't want to be too relaxed.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the marathon. So I've done a marathon in the RB Shell. I actually did it with the 110. Obviously, it's a molded boot. It was okay, but after 10K, I got a little niggle on the inside of my foot. After 42K, it was a big niggle, you know. And I would expect, I don't know, I have to ask your advice on this, but then if I was to maybe do the marathon in these skates, I would expect I would finish in probably a little bit happier, less pain in my feet, maybe a bit slower. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, honestly, I don't think it should be underestimated how much comfort does to you. Because like you said, maybe a little slower, because I mean, it makes sense that the stiffer it is, the less power you're gonna lose. So whatever you put into it is gonna go out on the other end into the ground.
Yep.
Whereas here, it's pretty obvious that you're gonna push, and some of it is just gonna get lost in the cushion here. But I do believe, and especially over the course of a marathon, that being comfortable is not just gonna make you happier at the finish line, but it might even make you get there faster.
Yeah.
And for two reasons, I would say. One of them is just like, if you enjoy the skating, you're gonna skate more, you're gonna train more, and in the end, you're gonna be a better skater.
Good point.
But I would also say, even during the course of like the single event, being in a softer skate like this, you're gonna be more relaxed. You might even skate better because you're comfortable in it. Whereas if there's no absorbance and you're gonna be super tense for 42 kilometers, like your shins are gonna hurt, your back is gonna be sore, and you won't be able to skate smoothly. Then you might even skate slower. So it's not just a matter of having a smile on your face, I think. It is potentially going to be even faster.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, with the hard boot, it can cause you, maybe a few niggling injuries, therefore a bit of pain, discomfort, which is probably not going to be fun.
Yeah.
Essentially, in these, you're probably going to finish happier. And like you say, could be the same speed or faster because you're in a better mood, things are working. I like that. So maybe I have to try my marathon next time on these.
The speed comes with the smile.
Yeah, like for sure. I know for me, like I'd rather be happy than fast. Like I know it may sound crazy to you, but for me, I'd rather be happy. And so,
yeah, we got to remember that by far, the majority of people are skating because of the fun of it. I mean, we also do, but a lot of people, it doesn't really matter if you're a second faster or slower, as long as you're having a good time.
Yep.
And like I know personally, because we did a photo shoot, I tried fitness skates, then I went back in some stiffer boots right after. And yes, I could skate technically a little better on the stiffer boots, but in these softer skates, I enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, it wasn't just like whenever I was skating, it was just standing still, chatting, and I'm sure when I'm done doing skating competitively, I'm gonna switch to these skates.
Right, yeah.
Immediately, like some really soft, some comfortable skates, because I'm gonna go for the smile on my face.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But so you wouldn't use these though in competition though, essentially.
I would use soft skates, but low cut soft skates.
So that brings me to a point. An actual speed skate without the cuff is a soft skate or a molded skate?
Well, it's somewhere in between. No, it categorizes as a soft skate.
Right.
Especially if we use the definition that this is a full shell all around the boot, where this is almost only the sole of it that's really
completely
hard or firm. And speed skates are essentially the same as this, except they're lower cut, which what we talked about. This one has very little ankle mobility. This one has a little more, and obviously if you cut the upper half off, you have full ankle mobility.
Right.
And allows you to be deeper in your skates, have longer strokes, do crossovers a little more smoothly.
So that would make your speed skate soft?
It would make it soft.
Yeah. There we go.
It's still, the lower part is still carbon, but the top of it would be leather.
Interesting.
It's the same category.
I had a different understanding when I was coming to this podcast, but then when you started explaining it, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because it's tricky. Like, it really depends in what way you're thinking of it. Like, I think of these to be a good entry-level skate. Even though when you look at them, the first thing that comes to your mind, like more stability, that would be the entry-level skate now.
I see where you're going with that, yeah.
But again, I think this is still sufficient enough to like stabilize what you would need. And a really good example is I'm a speed skater on ice. That's my profession. And in ice skating, the first thing I was told when I switched from inline skating to ice skating was get the softest boot you can find.
Right.
And I was like, is that not a little weird?
Sounds
Because
it.
I'm like super new to this,
Yeah.
crazy thin blades. Why the heck would I want something wobbly that's like going all over the place? But to learn to skate, which is, I mean, that's the main thing here, right?
Yeah.
The softer a boot, the more you can actually steer. Like you just said, there's no mobility here. You even mentioned that you want this to follow your entire leg if you could.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're completely new to skating, you're not gonna have the same impact that you have when you do your crazy tricks and all that stuff. You're just skating down a smooth road most likely. And then the more you can steer, the better an entrance you get into the sport of skating, because you learn to really work the skates.
Yeah, for me that's really important, because I hear a lot of people say that the first time they tried skating, the skates were uncomfortable, or they maybe used the wrong skates and they didn't skate again.
Yeah.
And for me, it breaks my heart to know that some people try skating and don't enjoy it, not because it's not fun, but just because of the comfort of their feet.
But there's careers that are lost out there just because they had a bad first experience.
Precisely.
Right.
Or maybe some skaters that I should be skating with now aren't here because of the comfort in their feet from when they started. So the point I'm trying to get at here is these soft skates are probably pretty good for people who are just starting to skate or getting into it.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
definitely.
Okay.
Comfort first,
Yeah.
and then if you get to the point where you don't just want it to be nice and comfortable, but you really want to do some wild things out there, then I could see why it makes sense to.
Get a more molded, rigid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. So obviously they're both skates, right? And so I just want to look at some of the other differences. So the weight of the skates, like the interesting thing is
Yeah.
in comparison,
The more skate, the more weight, basically.
Pick this one up now. Try that one. Compare.
Yeah, wow, that makes.
That is
That
interesting.
makes quite a difference.
Because for me personally, like, I don't know, some people might not be bothered by the weight of their skates. Some people like the inertia to have them heavy, so it pushes them somewhere. But for me, I want them as light as possible. And it's interesting because these are much lighter than my skate. And I've used these a handful of times, but I don't think I've used them enough. But the one thing I do remember is when I jumped in these skates before is, how light they are and how high you can get your feet.
Yeah.
That's a pro to it. But then the landing for me on the skate,
Yeah, I wouldn't make it.
I've got to land completely flat. Otherwise, if I land sideways, like you said, there isn't as much support in it and stuff. And so for me, it'd be like, whoa, it'd be a bit difficult. But yeah, these are definitely much lighter than these skates.
Yeah,
That's
which,
interesting.
especially if you're going for endurance, it's the obvious choice to go for the lighter.
Yeah, and something that's just crossed my
Lighter
mind as well is, say you're cross training, I know, or you ride to where you're going to skate. If you got these on your back, it's not going to be as hard to carry and stuff like this. So it might, if you're one of them people that has to cycle to where you go or run to where you go with your skates, this light skate might be really beneficial for you as well. Yeah, interesting.
One thing that comes to my mind, just looking at the two of them, and that's an issue that's been following me since I started skating as a tiny kid, when my mom wouldn't allow me to bring my skates inside the house because they simply smell too bad.
Right, okay, yeah.
And as you can see here, same goes for my own skates. There's a lot of like small ventilation gaps here, and it's a little more breathable. Whereas there's not a lot of ventilation there.
Yeah,
How in the world do you cope with that?
You deal with it, you don't cope with it. So everyone else has to cope with it. You forget the smell of your own feet, but no one else does.
Become immune.
Yeah, no one else does though. And so you're completely right. Like these, I sweat a lot in these skates, and like there's a few holes at the bottom. There's 2 in the side, the toes and the heels. But you got to remember is that then I got a liner underneath. Essentially with this skate, it's just a liner, and so your feet can breathe, and you got all the little holes in the liner there. With mine, like the moisture does get trapped inside, and if you do like a 4 or 6 hour skate day, like that moisture is staying in there. So use your imagination to the smells that it creates. But it's very interesting because with these, I'd doubt that you could ever make them smell. Obviously you could if you didn't wash your feet all the time and stuff, but I think you literally wouldn't have the problem in these skates, where obviously one of the cons to these skates is you do end up with some sweatier feet, I would say, for sure. So
I guess in a way we're pretty fortunate that these are more like endurance kind of skates.
Yeah.
Whereas these are made for more intense purposes.
More intense, yeah. I suppose you're not really supposed to spend 8 hours a day in these skates, but I'm just one of them strange people that skates all day.
Unless you're crazy enough for it, you can.
Yeah, and but the interesting thing, like you say, like so you got the like the breathability of the liner and this boot, but the comfort as well is another interesting point to me. Is I don't care for comfort at all. I'm all about performance. So I can have my feet hurting, in pain, but as long as I'm getting the right performance out of my skates,
that is where you find the joy of it.
That's it. Yeah. So I would have thought that these skates are way more comfortable than these skates.
I reckon.
Just because of my thinking is the hard boot. For me, I know sometimes when I hit things and stuff, my toes can end up right at the end of the boot. I've got a liner as well, but for me, like I said, I like performance. So I actually skate a skate that's probably too small for my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I do notice when my toes hit walls and stuff like that. But I tell you what, if I was skating this and my toes hit a wall, I'm gonna notice it a lot more.
Yeah, that's true. And that's even one of the, that's not a plus, but a plus with these skates is that you have that extra amount of cushion here. So if you get these skates or your feet are a bit swollen one day, or it's just half a size too big, half a size too small, it's still gonna be comfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's like a massive sock, basically. So you don't have this this won't move anywhere, where these allow you to move a little around in it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like, to sum up, that would even be like kind of a conclusion which skate to pick if you're just looking for a good experience, if you're new to skating, and if you're chasing a smile. If the smile comes from the joy of just skating, I think this would be the right pick.
Yeah, interesting.
And then I assume at some point
you'd move up to these when I'm not saying these don't make you smile, right?
Yeah.
In comparison, I think I would have my feet would be a lot happier in these in long distance and stuff like that.
This is a performance-driven smile.
Completely. And so like if you're going to start getting into jumps and things like that, you're definitely going to want to uprate your skate and move on to a more molded boot. Another thing I just want to pick up on as well. Obviously, all skates have wheels. Is there any differences between the wheels on a soft skate to a molded skate?
One thing is that you can always change the wheels, so you can customize for whatever fits your preferences. But in general, the wheels here would also be softer. I think you can even see how much of a hop there is. There is almost no hop here. Yeah,
and these are an 85A, so that's the hardness. I can see here the 82A.
Yeah, so already they're a big difference.
Yeah, so that's just the wheels that come on the skates, but what I'm trying to get at as well is they're not different types of wheels on the soft skates they're essentially the same way that you put them in, you take them out, you can upgrade them.
It is a really great way to customize it a bit. So let's say if we put it really like one or the other, stiff, soft. But you can always adapt, you can change your frames here for a stiffer or softer frame to create more options. And even though this is a softer boot, you can always put a really stiff frame on, and you can put some firm wheels, which is going to allow you to have a little more roll. So even though we put these as the two opposites, you can always find 1,000 different variations in between.
Right, okay, interesting. And so with this actual skate you're holding here, though, the frames aren't changeable, are they? No. But like with a majority of the soft skates that we do, there's interchangeable frames and stuff like
this. This is really an entry-level skate that's just made for anybody out there looking to get their first skating experience. And then as you move along, everything will be customizable.
Yep, got you. Like so obviously with this skate is you can take the frames off, and it's the same for all of the molded boots. Interesting. Oh, another thing as well. So with this, they essentially look kind of similar, but the big differences I've found between the hard or the molded boot and the soft skate is my molded skate.
I'm not going to try, but I won't make it.
So yeah, yours doesn't come out, and so that's probably why they're so light, right? Is because your liner is essentially
one piece.
the boot as well. Where I've still got the boot here, and I've got this extra thing to go inside, which you can now see why why you would sweat more in these skates as well, because it's essentially this with something covering it as well. So
pretty fortunate you can take it out to leave it to dry.
To clean is what you're supposed to do, but most of us don't. We just take it out, we dry it, and then we put them back in. But the idea is, you can put them in the wash. Nice. If you had to pick between a molded and a soft, what would you go for? I think I might know the answer to this.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but given that I have no skills to do all the cool stuff that you would actually benefit from if you.
I've seen you jump off a few things in your speed skates actually. So
that's true.
But if you stay off with these, it might be good.
Yeah. No, even though I am performance driven, it's still under pretty controlled conditions where I am in charge of whatever bouncing there might be. So I would go with soft molds. And I assume, I don't know, I'm not so sure. What if you were to go for an endurance skate?
This is
flat road, no jumping.
Yeah. Well, like I explained, I did a marathon and my feet hurt. And so I think if I'm going to start doing a lot more endurance skating and stuff, it would, from the conversation we've had today, it would make more sense that I use these skates. Like really. Like why would, I'm not doing endurance skating to do tricks, to impress anyone, to do slides.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going out and I know I'm going to do some stairs or do some jumps, yeah, of course I'm going to take my molded skates. But if it's just endurance, just fitness, I'm gonna go for these. Another interesting thing as well with a lot of these softer skates, they come with really nice patterns. So this one's quite plain actually, but there's a lot of ones that Rollerblade do with these really nice patterns.
Yeah.
And I don't call them fitness skates personally. Yeah, I mean I call them fashion skates. I love the way they look on
Sexy.
my feet as well. Yeah. So the other thing I like about these skates is they look really cool on your feet.
Yeah.
Like, and you can get like the right clothes to go with them and stuff. You know, I'm going a bit off topic here and stuff, but like for me that's really important.
There's bonuses. Yeah.
So you can look good and feel good at the same time, right? So for me it's double whammy. It's really, really good.
So even, I know we can't put labels on it because it is up to individual preferences and not just what you prefer, but also like who you are and where you are in your whole skating career and journey. But we could say that this one is endurance / entry, whereas this one is more urban and let's say skills.
Yeah.
Agility maybe?
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, urban and agility skate, and then entry and fitness and endurance. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we're kind of going down, if anyone saw the last podcast, to, we're always trying to find the differences, what's good for what's good for this. And again, from what we're talking, it's almost like it's personal preference again, right?
We realize we have different views, but there's a reason for it, because we have different purposes with skating.
That's it. So it all depends, like molded boot to soft skate, there is no better one. It all depends on your situation, what you're doing, what you're using it for, and I suppose what you want to get out of skating.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anything else you want to add to that? I think we're good.
I look forward to our next podcast.
Yeah, me too actually. These have been pretty fun, and hopefully we get another great location like this.
Yeah, thanks for coming up here.
Yeah, thank you for getting me out of Barcelona. It's been nice. Viktor, good luck with all the training as well, bro.
Thanks, mate.
Appreciate it, man.
See you around.
Take care. Peace.